Hey, I'm Altaf.
And I'm Chris.
And welcome to the top 10 of 2024.
I know immediately we're laughing when this starts because I don't know about you, but I just realized you didn't have a written synopsis and I'm so used to that. And we're both like, okay, let's start.
I feel naked a little bit because
Yeah,
I'm always used to having like the security of my phone and looking at it and revealing to you the brilliance of what I wrote, but I don't have that this episode.
Yeah.
Because it's the end of the year episode.
Yeah, which we've never done a podcast like this before, so this is our first shot in the dark. We're going to be doing our top 10 of 2024, and you might be wondering, is this a top 10 movies of 2024 like most movie channels do? No, this is top 10 anythings of 2024.
Okay, so I want to give some context. You, not famously, but famously in our friendship, don't like list-making content. And in podcasting, list-making content is like really big. So there's been many a times where I've pitched to you, we should do like a top 10 list of some sort. We should do this. And it's kind of just been like something that I don't mind this, but it's something that you're just not interested in. And we were thinking of like an end of the year, what to do. And I was like, let's do a top 10 list. But instead of just doing we can include movies, our favorite movies of 2024, but it doesn't have to be just movies. It can be TV shows we watch. It could be, and you started pitching this idea. It was like, it could be a favorite dish we made in 2024. It could be a favorite life moment.
Yeah.
So our favorite things from 2024, because I feel like this podcast in general is not just about movies. It's also about us. And I feel like this idea captures that.
Yeah. So
this episode is for like the real fans of this show.
yeah, exactly. So, how do you want to take this on? Do you want to go first with number 10, or do you want me to go first?
You're just railroading through this. I have some questions for you first.
Okay, yeah. Before we get started.
Yeah. So, this is a broad question. What's your relationship been with movies this year?
With movies, I think it's evolved a lot thanks to this podcast. You know, I think I've been watching them with a much more like close examination eye, if that makes any sense. I know it sounds a little gobbledygooky, but like...
What about new movies?
New movies? I mean, not much of one, to be completely honest. I haven't really watched a lot of... I can probably count on one hand how many times I've gone to the theater this whole year.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, you didn't go as much this year.
No, I didn't. Mostly just for money reasons, and also just because I don't know, just nothing's really jumped out at me enough to like make the time to go.
Yeah.
So it's not like a bad thing. Not like I'm against anyone that goes to see movies this year. You know,
I don't think people are thinking that.
yeah. But yeah, no, it's just never really been much of a thing for me.
I do think this is the year we quit the reaction channel. And after that, it's definitely for my personal watching habits, even outside this podcast. I feel like it's freed me up to just check out movies where I used to just be like, I gotta wait for the show.
Yeah, we gotta wait to do it on camera.
And I'm like, oh, if I just want to watch a movie, I don't have to now, because what I used to do is like, oh, I've never seen this movie before. Wait, before I just watch it on my own for fun, let me look up on YouTube if this does well in reactions, because if it does, let's save it for a reaction.
Mm-hmm. Which you and I have, like, even when we were doing the reaction channel regularly, we butted heads about that sort of thing too.
Exactly. And so it's definitely freed me up in that sense. I have seen more new movies this year than I have in the past. In the past, I check out the big ones in theaters. I go to the movie theaters a lot, but this year specifically, I kind of made like a choice. I was like, I want to see as many new movies as possible. Even if I don't catch them in theaters, I'll catch them in streaming, no matter how good or even bad. I want to check them out.
Yeah.
Because I wanted like a more holistic opinion on 2024 as a movie year, just because movie watching is a passion of mine outside the channel. And then when it comes to this podcast, same as you. Like, I think like I have looked at movies in a whole new way because of this show.
Yeah.
And just looked at them personally. And even though like movies are a huge part of my life and I do connect to them personally, it's been like on another level because of this show.
Yeah. I think it's been therapeutic in its own ways for that reason too.
Okay. I also had an existential breakdown with Deadpool and Wolverine. I feel like I went to go see that movie and it really did break me a little bit. And I got so upset because I really didn't like it. And I don't need to go into that. But like the reason I bring it up is because I feel like it was this like turning point a little bit for me. And this cynicism that was building inside me for a while. Like I was becoming more and more cynical, and Deadpool Wolverine happened and it kind of broke me. And then off mic and off camera, I would constantly complain about movie culture and everything. And I remember you just had like a phone call with me and you were just like, hey man, I feel like lately, not just with movies, but with a lot of stuff, you've been hating more than you've been loving. And I think if it's because of other stuff going on in your life, that's fair enough. But I just wanted you to be aware of that. And then like that really helped me a lot, I feel like, in terms of just being like, oh yeah, the movies are something that I love watching. It's a passion of mine. But also like in general in life, like I've been kind of putting a burden on myself by being cynical about everything. And we talked about this in the Everything Everywhere episode. It's easy to be cynical. It's easy to be pessimistic. It's hard to be optimistic. But putting in that effort is worth it. I think you having that conversation with me a little bit after my breakdown over Deadpool Wolverine did help me a lot this year.
Well, good. Yeah, I mean, that's awesome. I think, yeah, that was tough for me because honestly, like, and we've already talked about this off mic and all that, just for listeners, though, that was something that was kind of brewing in me for a while. You know, I just kind of felt that always sprinkled in throughout whenever we'd hang out. And I was originally really bothered by it just personally, just because I was like, man, this is kind of fucking annoying to have to talk to them and just like hear just a constant negative spins on like everything all the time. But then I ended up having to take a step back before, you know, talking to you about it, where I was like, okay, you know what, maybe this isn't about me or personal. Maybe there's something going on that like, you know, because I know, like, I think you even said when we had the conversation, it's like, I know you and this doesn't feel like you. I remember saying that to you too.
Yeah.
It's like, I know you're, I don't want to say like better than this, but like more healthy minded than that, you know?
And, you know, after that, I think I still have stuff that I'm angry about when it comes to like whether it be movies or life, but I'm trying not to be overly cynical because that is an easy thing to resort to. You know what I mean? So, and then I think my next question before we get to our top 10 list is, do you have any? So this is a question that I'm borrowing from The Big Picture. In The Big Picture, they always do an end of the year mailbag where they ask each other, what are your movie resolutions for next year? Whether it be what kind of movies do you want to watch more of? When it comes to your movie watching habits, what do you want to change? Do you have any movie resolutions for next year?
I think as I'm wrapping up, lately my girlfriend and I have been more comfortable just sort of putting something on as we're scrolling through streaming. And so I think next year I just want to be more comfortable just putting something on, even if I don't know a whole lot about it. Because sometimes, like, I think ever since we've been doing it for content or whatever, it has to be like blocked out. Like, okay, I got to watch this movie because they're going to podcast on it. And I think I'm trying to be more deliberate and like just putting something on for shits and giggles.
Yeah.
You know, and scrolling through, even if it might not look great or whatever. It's like, let's just put it on. Let's see what it is, you know?
Yeah.
So I think that's something that I just want to get more comfortable doing, even though it sounds like something that a lot of people just do as it is. But for me, it's kind of a thing.
Well, actually, you know, I feel like a lot of people go through this problem with streaming of like, because there's endless options and every single opinion is so readily available on every movie or every show, it's hard to pick. Because like you could literally like see a movie and your immediate instinct is like, what's the Rotten Tomato score? What's the Letterboxd score? What are people saying? And all that stuff. And I think that's a good habit to try to get into, is just like, if that looks good, let's just put it on and see.
Yeah, I think our instincts a lot of the time is to like, what's the best one for me to watch today? You know what I mean? Like, I can't just put on one that if I'm watching this one instead of this other one that I don't know about yet, I'm missing out, you know, instead of just sort of like, you're going to get something out of it if you just click on something. You know?
That's great. I really do like that. And
what about you?
I think I want to watch more foreign films. So I watched a lot of movies this year. And you can go on my Letterboxd at Altaf if you want to see, but you'll see that I've been like every month I log a shit ton of movies. And I was looking through this year while I was preparing for this episode, and I was like, wow, I didn't watch that many foreign films. I could count on my hand how many I watched. It's like not many at all. And I was like, okay, next year I want to make sure I'm watching a lot more of those. Whether it's catching up to the classics, like watching like the classic Kurosawa movies, or watching new foreign films that are coming out that people are talking about. Like I really did none of that this year.
Sure.
Even with like Bollywood movies, like I didn't watch that many new Bollywood movies this year. So definitely something I want to work on.
Yeah. I support that.
When it comes to like relating to what you were talking about, just putting something on, I want to get into the habit of like, I go to the movie theater a lot, but even me, like I'll look up every review before I buy a ticket. And I want to start doing something, maybe even if it's just like once a month. If I have a day off, I want to walk to a theater and not know what I'm going to watch and buy a ticket and just
Okay.
go in. Like I want to do that at least once a month next year because I think that would be so much fun, and that would be, and even if I haven't seen the trailer or know nothing about it, that's even better. And it could be shit, it could be a great discovery, or it could be mediocre, but I just want to get into that habit again.
Yeah, yeah. I used to do that when I was 16, I think. I told you about this. That like once a week, I would take the public transportation home from school. But I would like for some reason my stepdad always just gave me a couple extra bucks to buy myself a movie ticket, just to see a random movie as soon as I'm out of school. So I wouldn't even know anything about it. I would just walk up and just see, okay, that one's playing close by, and I'll come see it. And I was just very comfortable watching mediocre movies or really good movies or really bad movies.
Yeah, and I feel like that's like the thing that you and I are both saying in different ways. Where you with streaming, with me going to the movie theater, is like just not being afraid to just go into something you don't know when it comes to your watching habits.
Yeah, yeah. Well, especially because like for you and I think, correct me if I'm wrong in this, but I sometimes feel like you're not as comfortable putting on something mediocre. You know what I mean? Sometimes like it has to be worth your time, you know?
The way I think about it, which I'm not saying is right, but I'm just explaining my thought process, is that like while I'm watching this, I could be catching up with another great American classic or a great foreign classic that I haven't seen. Time is short. Why am I wasting my time? When in general, I mean, like I like movies because I like movies.
Yeah.
And so there should be a less of classism when it comes to my habits.
Yeah, it's like, to me, sometimes I see movies almost like I do, like, this might sound pretentious, but like almost like consuming food or something, where I'm like, sometimes you just want a middle of the road meal and move on, you know? Sometimes you don't want to overthink and get a super fancy dish, you know?
Well, yeah. I mean, I have some honorable mentions in these top 10 lists that are kind of like that.
Okay, sick. So do I. I got some honorable mentions too.
Okay, so do you want to start?
Yeah, sure.
All right, cool. So we're going to do a top 10 list. If you want to see like my official like movie ranking list, go on my Letterboxd. Every time this whole year, what I've been doing every time I watch a new movie for 2024, I've been adding it to a 2024 ranked list. So there's like 50 movies on there that are ranked.
Yeah, it's a dope list for
So-
anyone that hasn't seen it.
Go check it out. It's also, you might not agree with like the bottom 10 that I have. Specifically one movie that's all the way at the bottom you might not agree with, but besides that, I feel like I'm pretty proud of like where my top 10 is at. There's a good variety and it's unique. So number 10, do you want me to start? Do you want to go?
I don't care. Yeah, go for it.
Number 10, Rebel Rich.
Okay. Yeah. That's sick.
You and I are both fans of Jeremy Saulnier, I don't know how to pronounce his name. We've seen Green Room and Blue Ruin. We haven't seen that one Netflix show, but I feel like he's a Netflix movie. I mean, he's a filmmaker that he's our meeting point. You and I both love him. We've seen him at similar times.
Yeah.
And he's just one of those guys that if he does a new movie, I'm going to be interested. And when he did this, it's everything that I love about him, which is grounded action in, with characters that are hyper competent and know what they're doing. I mean, Blue Ruin is like the opposite of that though, but it's still in a world that's very grounded and is showing me parts of action that I don't see in other movies.
Well, I think what he does, to go off of what you're saying, like he has really crafty characters like that are smart, like, or maybe not always intelligent, but like believable, if that makes any sense. You know what I'm saying? I think like Blue Ruin did that really well. Like, yeah, the main character wasn't like this expert at all, but he was really crafty and he was a good survivor.
Every decision that his main characters do, there's a reason why they do them.
Exactly.
It's not just for the sake of the movie. Like Aaron Pierre's character in Rebel Ridge, the reason he's so sharp and the reason he is so calm and tactical is because he was in the Marine Corps. And you're like, oh, so the reason why he's so clean shaven and cut and all this is because he's in the Marine Corps.
But you're still, exactly, and you're still fascinated by him in the process because he still like has such a unique personality and is so like controlled, you know?
Yeah, and it's like again, the movie is what I call, and it's not a term I coined, but it's my favorite movie genre, which is competence porn. It's like you're watching someone who's really good at their job do their job.
Yeah.
And at the same time, it also feels like an 80s revenge movie.
Oh, exactly. The outward plot structure is very simple, and but it feels like something we haven't seen in a while.
Like Rebel Ridge is, I think, out of all his movies, feels like his first like mainstream movie. What Green Room and Blue Ruin is for the real sickos that are like into just feeling like sick in their stomach when they're watching a movie.
Yeah.
But Rebel Ridge, you're like at some points just pumping your fists. You're excited.
Yeah. I think like, yeah, Green Room has like inklings of that for sure, but it's such a dark, like fucked up movie, which I love Green Room. I think, I don't know, I'm kind of torn between Green Room and Blue Ruin being my favorite of his movies.
Rebel Ridge might be up there for me now.
Rebel Ridge was great too. Yeah. Okay, cool.
I gotta say the line he's on the Wikipedia page is just like the line of the year for me when they're like trying to look up who this person is and the Wi-Fi goes down and it's a great like
careful not to spoil it for those
source
who
of
haven't seen
tension.
it.
And then there's a line where she's like, oh my God, he's on the Wikipedia page. It's like hilarious and fucking badass. Yeah, I won't spoil too much. But what's your number 10?
So my number 10 was going to the Nevada City Film Festival.
Oh, cool.
I did that earlier this year in like May, I think. And I watched probably like 50 short films a day there for a weekend.
Yeah.
And I haven't watched a lot of short films, but it reignited something in me and made me just want to reach out to small artists and like make something. Like, you know how like that happens sometimes where you see something and you're like, you feel like motivated, like awaken something in you.
I went to a local short film festival at the Lemley Theater in LA, and that it kind of did the same thing for me.
Yeah, so I definitely had that, and it was just a good trip. The area was just really wholesome. It was a small little road and like hills and mountains. It almost felt like you're in an old timey Western area or something like that.
That's cool.
You know, so it was really cool.
So
it was
you just
really nice.
it felt like you were just like in a small town watching a bunch of movies.
Oh yeah. They just kept going. You know, the blocks of short films. You know.
Yeah, it's one after another, especially with short film festivals.
Exactly. So that was really fun.
That's cool. Number 9, hosting my first dinner party. So I been cooking more and more. I started taking like cooking seriously last year.
Okay.
Before that, it was a lot of ramen and whatever was easily available. And then 2023 was when I want to learn how to cook Indian food, the food I grew up with. And I started to get better at it, taking it more seriously. And then early 2024, I moved to a place that I live in now that is a much bigger space where I could start hosting friends of mine. And I've always wanted to host. And so I was like, okay, let me test myself and cook like a full spread and have a dinner party. It was extremely stressful. I would have done things differently if I do it another time, which is like I would have prepped ahead of time way more.
Of course, but it's your first shot at that sort of thing, so it makes sense.
I'll share a photo of like the appetizers that I made. The appetizers were chicken tikka kebabs and vegetable samosas that I made from scratch. I made the dough from scratch, which I was really proud of. And then the main entree was lamb biryani.
Was it like a hit, you know, or
it was a
the
hit.
guests
It
that
was
were
good.
into it?
I think the biryani could have been cooked a little bit better. It could have been cooked for a little bit longer, but everyone was a fan. It went so well. The last hour was the most stressed I've ever been because I was like, nothing's ever going to get done.
Of course.
And I felt like I had 4 pots going at the same time. I'm like, oh my God. But it was really like, it was cool to know that I did it. And if I do it a second time, I'm like, okay, I know a lot of things that I'll fix. But I was really proud of myself. You couldn't make it because I think you were at that film festival.
Oh, yeah, that was. I forgot those are kind of parallel to one another.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, like that's always the coolest feeling, though. At least like I've had that on a small taste when we had our Thanksgiving party or a potluck. You know,
we had this year. You mean?
Yeah. When you're keeping an eye on everyone's plates, making sure like they're eating it right. They're eating it. Okay, cool.
You made amazing mashed potatoes.
Hey, thanks, man.
Yeah, it was. I mean, like, I don't think there were any leftovers. Like
that was I know that was the coolest feeling. I was like making sure because it was my first stab at ever making them, and I'm sure it was really easy, but it was my first time making something with a large quantity as well as making it in general for the first time. So it did feel like a weird amount of pressure because I'm like mashed potatoes on Thanksgiving are pretty fucking important.
Yeah, no, it was a huge hit.
Yeah.
All right, what's your number 8?
So. My number 9, actually.
Oh, sorry. What's your number 9?
My number 9 is Terrifier 3.
Hell yeah.
Which was really fun.
I knew, like, I didn't put it on my list because I knew you would.
Yeah. Well, because I was just excited of the existence of this series because I missed Terrifier 2 and I heard about it for a while.
Same.
And it was just cool to see, like, a real franchise just actually be born in movie, or, like, seeing a movie that's made with, like, real, practical effects in a horror movie. And it sounds crazy just to be like, there's practical effects, it's like a low bar to set, but it was really fucking cool.
Yeah, for me, it was the same thing where it was like seeing a new slasher franchise specifically was so exciting because we haven't gotten a new Friday the 13th movie in a while. The slasher genre felt kind of dormant for like almost a decade.
The only one that was kind of awake still was Scream, and Halloween barely.
But both of those are like trying to rehash.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Trying to do the legacy sequel.
Exactly. No new franchises were just kind of an obscure thing.
And it's Art the Clown. He's a legend now.
Yeah.
And it was cool. Like, so Terrifier 3 was coming out and I started hearing like a lot of people going to see it. And I was like, okay, this is like a thing. So I checked out the first two. You only checked out the second one, I believe.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
I watched a lot of clips of the first one, but I will sit down and watch it soon.
And it's just cool that it's the same writer and director that's doing it. It's his baby. And it's really fucked up.
They are fucked up movies.
But there's something so awesome about that.
That's what I'm saying, man. Like, I feel like lately so much of, I don't want to just say like so much of Hollywood because I don't want to totally shit on everything that's being made. But at the same time, there is like such a weird, like, sterilization of movies nowadays. And I'm not saying movies have to always be as fucked up as Terrifier.
No,
if
but
you've seen Terrifier, they go pretty far. But like, I haven't seen movies that just don't care about how far they go like that in a while.
There's another movie on my list that you can probably guess is like that as well. But yeah, no, I mean, I felt the same way. You and I went to go see this movie together. If you guys haven't seen it, highly recommend. We won't spoil it. The Santa Claus bar scene is like one of my favorite scenes of 2024.
Yeah, dude, that scene was so dope.
I laughed so fucking hard. Specifically, his reaction when he sees Santa Claus is like top tier. That actor is so good. It feels like I'm watching. I might be exaggerating this. It feels like I'm watching someone like Charlie Chaplin. His physical performance in it is so funny and so menacing.
Or it's like a Mr. Bean-esque or something.
Exactly. It's like a silent film when you're watching it.
Yeah.
And it's wonderful. I'm glad you put it on the list.
Yeah, yeah.
Number 8, playing tennis regularly this year.
Oh, yeah.
So I've never been an athlete. I'm mostly like, when I've lost weight or been healthy, it's mostly through nutrition. I'm bad about going to the gym. But this year, I think me and my friends were like looking at each other. It was like, we got to do something active. And I used to play tennis as a kid with my dad every now and then and with my friends back in Knoxville. And then I got my friends together. I'm like, let's play tennis. And since February, we've been basically playing every week.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I know. You call me every time you're done with the match.
And I'm like, yeah, it was a good match. And I'm trying to get Chris out to play too. We just haven't found the time, but it's been really fun. And it was also especially fun because then later a specific tennis movie came out. And I'm like, this couldn't be more perfect timing. But yeah, playing tennis regularly.
That's awesome.
It's been great. Awesome. It's been great doing a sport because I've never been athletic in my entire life. And to finally have a sport that I can resort to once a week is amazing.
I know. I've been wanting to do that too. I think like, I like doing that stuff. I just haven't really made the time to do it lately. But every time I do anything physical, I always feel jazzed up. Like, oh, hell yeah, I'm glad I can do that. You know what I'm saying? I think us as humans, I'm going to sound like Joe Rogan for a second, but we are wired to like move and pick up heavy shit, It's like we have that urge in us.
Jamie, pull up that guy that was attacking that deer.
Yeah, exactly. He does like a weird off-kilter animal impression. He'll tell a story. And then the bear ran up and is like, "Wow."
Dude, have you seen that clip of like him with Miley Cyrus? that the way they edited that?
Oh, yeah, of course.
It's like, it's so good. Anyways, it makes me laugh so hard. But yeah, no, like I think it's been a great excuse I think the reason we've been so consistent with it is also, as you get older, it's harder to find excuses for you and your friends to hang out.
Yeah.
And I feel
Why do you think this podcast exists?
For real though, right? But I think that like me and my friends, like this has been a great excuse for us to hang out because we get to like work out and then also see each other once a week.
Yeah. That's a good call.
What's your number 8?
So my number 8 would be finally tuning in to Modern Family. That's been really fun.
It's become a comfort show for you.
It has been, and I haven't had that in a while. Especially for me and my girlfriend. We already have seen all of The Office and haven't, we watched dramas together. We watched all of Breaking Bad and,
You're also not a huge sitcom person.
Not anymore. I used to be a lot more of one. There was a period where I was just flying through certain shows. But it's been a while since I've tapped into that part of myself again. And I think Modern Family awoken that in me. I'm on season 3 now. I'm still early on. But we've been watching it every day, basically. We've been watching like 1 or 2 episodes a day.
That show might be one of the perfect examples of you sit down, turn it on, you know exactly what the plot line's going to go, how it's going to go, where these characters are going to go. But there's such a comfort in knowing. Like, there's such a comfort of knowing, I'm going to hang out with my friends. I'm going to hang out with my family, in this case, Modern Family. And I just know what's going to happen here. I know Cam and Mitch are going to bicker. I know Phil's going to do something dumb. I know Claire's going to be high strung.
Yeah.
And I know Jay's not going to be with it with something.
Yeah, exactly. He's stuck in his ways.
But it's still funny and so comforting.
Yeah. And, I think, it's total side note that they significantly improved Cam's character in season 3. I don't know if I told you
were
that.
Talking about
season
that.
2, he is awful. He is like insufferable in season 2. And then season 3, I feel like the writers are like, okay, yeah, we're getting the feedback. It's too much,
I binged it for the first time 2 years ago, but I only got to like season 6, because then after that it started to get actually old.
Sure.
But yeah, that's awesome. I'm glad you found a comfort show. We all need one.
Yeah.
Okay, number 7, The Substance.
Oh yeah.
Is The Substance on your list?
No, I forgot to put that one on.
Because I was gonna say
it's mentally in it.
Okay, cool. I was about to say, it's like, if it is on your list, we'll wait to talk about it if it's higher up. But we can talk about it now. You and I didn't see this together, but we both did see it in theaters.
Yeah, we saw it separately.
When I watched this movie, I was excited for it when the trailer came out because the director had done another movie called Revenge, and I really loved her like hyper saturated style. All the stuff that you saw in The Substance with these extreme close-ups on people that's all in Revenge. She just has a style that I really like, No, and then I watched The Substance and it was exactly what I wanted, which was her style. But at the same time, it was like, I was so amazed by a movie similar to Terrifier 3 that didn't give a fuck about holding back. It went for it every step of the way.
Yeah.
And knew what it had to say and didn't say it with any sense of like wanting to be subtle. I love that it was like some movies need to be a primal scream. Like, and some movies can deliver their message in a subtle way that makes you think and explore the movie a little bit more. I like both styles, but sometimes you need something like a primal scream, which is what Substance is.
Oh, 100%. I mean, that's one of those movies. I think we talked about it a little bit on our Patreon bonus podcast, but like, I think you can tell it was directed by a woman, which is what I loved. And as weird as that sentence is, it's just because it's a movie that's so genre focused, but it has such a unique perspective, which we don't get to see a lot of, even outside of the really obvious, crazy shit that's in the movie. The way that men are filmed in it with the camera bugging in their eyes close, they look gross.
I never want to eat shrimp again because of Dennis Quaid in that
and
movie.
I love that that's a perspective, though. You know what I'm saying? Like I feel like a male director would not have filmed it that way.
Well, I mean, that perspective, but also just the scene of her getting ready for the date.
Exactly.
Which might be the most tense scene in the entire movie that actually made my skin crawl more than any of the body horror stuff, mostly because I do watch a lot of horror, so that stuff doesn't really get me as hard.
Yeah.
But that sequence, I was like, oh, this is like 100% could not be directed by a man.
Yeah.
You need that experience and you need that like level of intimacy, and we can say everything we want about Demi Moore, but for her to do a role like this is so...
It's fantastic.
I know it's hacky for me to say like it's brave, but it fucking is.
Yeah.
Oh
yeah. It's a huge ask of an actress to do something like that. If anyone hasn't seen The Substance, like, do yourself a favor and watch it. It's a lot. It's pretty fucked up in a lot of places, so brace yourself for it, but it's so good.
You know what's cool about both The Substance and Terrifier? Is I see something like The Substance, and when I first watched it, I was like, oh, this is going to be this generation's The Thing, where it's going to get panned because it's so hardcore and gruesome, but people later are going to appreciate this. And I thought I was like the cool one who got it. right? And like the real heads will get it, but later everyone will. Like the Marty McFly line. This movie worldwide made $77 million.
So cool.
Terrifier 3 on a $2 million budget made $89 million. Terrifier 3 is now known as the highest box office for an unrated movie of all time.
Wow.
And
I didn't know that movie's unrated.
yeah, I think it is.
That's kind of funny.
And I just like, it's proof that there's like a hunger for this level of genre filmmaking that what is surprising and exciting for me, that people are like on board for this.
Well, I mean, I think like anything, there's always going to be kind of a push and pull when it comes to art. You know, there's always going to be like a response to the way things are. And like for movies like Terrifier, like we already talked about, like movies that quote unquote like don't give a fuck, you know, it's almost like its own counterculture in itself of like how much, you know, Disney Plus isms come out and how many Amazon projects and how many boring, sterile movies are getting spat out by, you know, hundreds of $1 million companies.
Where these kind of movies punch through the noise a little bit.
Exactly. That are just like, you know, here, we're not like that. This is what we're going to do. You know, let's think outside the box. We're going to show you guys that there's other ways to consume art.
I'm not equating it to the same level of quality. I want this to be clear, but I do remember during our Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the thing that you were saying that I responded to, which is like, this type of movie doesn't feel like it was touched by Hollywood. Terrifier 3 definitely feels like that to me. And to an extent, I know Substance has Margaret Qualley, Dennis Quaid, and Demi Moore in it. Substance does kind of feel like that, though.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
Even though it has huge movie stars that have movie star history behind them.
Yeah.
Margaret Qualley being a Nepo baby, she's amazing, but she is. It still has that quality of like, how were they fucking allowed to do it?
Yeah.
And that's very exciting. For as much doom and gloom as we give about the movie industry, these two movies doing really well is a good sign.
They're a nice gulp of fresh air.
Hell yeah. Number 7, what is it for you?
Showing my girlfriend the Star Wars movies.
For the first time?
So to clarify, what I was going to say is that it was not her first time, but she did see them when she was like really young and didn't remember them. So when I say showing them, there's always like a difference when you watch them seeing in the background as a kid and then when you actually sit down and watch them.
Yeah.
And actually can like follow the story and understand what's going on and appreciate it.
I'm sure I'm not saying something as offensive or too revealing, but she's not someone that retains a lot of memory with movies in general. So if she hasn't seen it multiple times, it is kind of like, oh, you haven't seen it.
It kind of comes and goes. It takes a little bit for her to stick with it. So
totally.
So when it comes to Star Wars, it was pretty cool, like actually getting her invested in the story.
You had a real boyfriend moment.
Exactly. I know. It's like a boyfriend rite of passage eventually, you know?
Yeah.
So we ended up watching the original trilogy and then the prequel trilogy, which the prequel trilogy took us multiple sittings to get through. We had to watch it like a drama TV show. Like every 45 minutes we had to pause and then do something else and then come back to it.
How often did you have to hold yourself back from like talking about lore or what was explored in Clone Wars? Or were you pretty much like, was there any like pausing and explaining that you were doing?
It was more like the opposite. Like she would criticize something that from the prequels. Like, why are they doing that? That's confusing. And then I'll be like, oh, well, actually the lore explained this. You know? Like that's kind of how it was.
Sure.
But there was, I mean, of course there were things that I did have to pause and explain stuff, but her and I, that's kind of how we watch movies. We kind of do our own like pause and analyze it together, try to figure out what's going on and then play.
That's just how you guys consume stuff.
Yeah. Or sometimes it'll remind me like, hang on, pause. I forgot to tell you, did you know yesterday, like sometimes things will happen where it just makes us talk again?
Right. Okay. That makes sense.
So that was a very fun part of this year though.
Yeah. And we also ended up doing the first Star Wars movie on our podcast, which was its own special thing because I remember you and I both were kind of nervous about covering Star Wars on an episode because it was like, what are we going to talk about? Mm-hmm. And it ended up being such a great personal episode. It was really
that was
nice.
Really fun. That was a fun one.
Okay. Number 6, I think you're going to be happy about this one. I don't know if you put it on your list. It's the Fallout TV show.
Okay, yeah.
Is it on your list?
Yes, I'm not going to share when it is, but it is on there, yeah.
Let's save it then, because I want to save it until it gets to yours.
Okay, sick.
So what's your number 6?
My number 6 is The Merry Gentleman and crappy Christmas rom-coms.
Oh!
It's always a very special time of my year. I love watching crappy rom-coms. It's recent, so I'm not like well-versed. I don't know why I'm saying it defensively, like we have listeners that are hardcore into the Hallmark lore.
No, but it is, dude, like there is like it's a there's like a cult of it now. I mean, online you'll see people. That's like a tradition for a lot of people to watch these Hallmark movies.
So yeah, I put that on because it was fun to just tap into that part of myself a little bit. Because sometimes like my burden is the fact that you and I watch so many good movies together, like for the commentary tracks and Patreon and to cover for the podcast. So for me, sometimes my escape is to like just kind of watch junk food. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
This is like, you know how like when we watched the first couple episodes, or when I watched the first couple episodes of The Bear, how like he comes home and eats like TV dinner.
Well, he comes home and I remember the meal. He like opens up a bag of Doritos and drinks a Coke, and it's just like,
exactly. Sometimes it feels that way for me with movies a little bit. I think you and I have talked about that.
No. That's a great comparison, because it does feel like, well, this is my work, and now when I go home, I need to watch. What's the actor's name from One Tree Hill?
Oh, I think he's
Chad Murray Smith. What's his name?
Chad Michael Murray, I think is what it is.
Are you sure?
I'm pretty sure. Look it up real quick just to verify.
One Tree Hill. Chad Michael Murray.
Yeah.
You're so like when you go home after doing the podcasting stuff, you're just like, I need to watch Chad Michael Murray just in a Hallmark Christmas movie.
If anyone likes those types of movies, because that movie's on Netflix, if anyone likes those types of movies, I do recommend The Merry Gentleman. It's basically a Netflix rom-com meets Magic Mike. I'll say no more at that point, but that was a fun one though. And also, did I tell you that this movie, The Merry Gentleman in particular, takes place in the same universe as that Vanessa Hudgens movie, The Princess Switch Up, or whatever it's called? Yeah, because it's about...
Do they like tease it?
No, they don't. There's no crossover directly, but there's a shot where they're doing the exposition where they're panning through a bunch of photo frames in the bar of how much history this local, bar has. And you see a photo where it says Princess Visits Local Club, and they photoshopped Vanessa Hudgens in it, like with a hoodie or something like that, smiling. I don't remember exactly what.
God.
But I paused it because I wonder, like, a princess. Like, it took me a second because I never saw the Vanessa Hudgens movie.
Right. So they've made 3 of those.
I think so. Yeah.
So those movies, like, I want to check out actually, because the concept for the first movie, you're like, okay. This movie. The second movie, oh, she has an evil twin. Interesting. Third movie, there's another identical person that looks like her. I'm like, they need to do a fourth one. Just keep adding more Vanessa Hudgens.
A whole group of Vanessa Hudgens, eventually the Avengers.
It's so silly to me, but it's amazing.
Yeah, so I just wanted to share that with you. Anyone they did some weird MCU shit with this movie.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So do we move on?
Yeah. So we're at your number 5.
We're at my number 5.
Cool.
Number 5 is the SNL Beppo digital short.
Okay.
It is honestly like one of my favorite things to come out this year.
Yeah.
I've been watching more SNL lately in general, but the John Mulaney SNL episode is amazing. But that Beppo short is like, if you want to know my sense of humor, if you not want to know what I'm into, it's in that. It has everything I love about just comedy or just art in general.
Well, it has a lot of the stuff that you and I get a kick out of, like when we do reactions, how we point out types of shots, like the deliberate decisions that are made.
It shoots it like it's a Ron Howard movie, where it has this, like, I'm specifically referring to the Apollo movie that Ron Howard did, and it has like the Hitchcock shot. It has every time it cuts to anyone in that sketch, the camera's moving. Like,
I know. Yeah. To your point, that skit is amazing. That's hilarious. I never thought to do SNL skits for this episode, but like, I sat down to watch the whole episode too, and I haven't been watching a lot of SNL lately, but that one I was like, I got to make time to watch the John Mulaney one.
Well, specifically because I was like, dude, you got to watch I kept telling you about the Beppo thing. I was like, you got to check out Beppo. It's like, there's some like moments in there when it cuts back to Beppo when he realizes he can't go back home. And the camera, like, he looks at Earth and the camera goes back and it's him in space. And you can hear the audience getting emotional. Yeah. And then when Beppo is like, not today, and you realize he crash landed on Earth, the audience cheers like it's a cinematic moment. And then he kisses Sarah Sherman. And they're like, isn't that your wife? Talking to John Mulaney. And John Mulaney's like, not anymore. And like, there's a line where he's like, how can he do that? He's a chimp. No, he's an astronaut.
Yeah. I know. I feel like he just tapped into like his inner 90s, like Zemeckis, Ron Howard-isms.
Number 5?
My number 5 would be going to the Lighthouse Cafe at Hermosa Beach.
Oh,
that was pretty sick.
Hell yeah, dog.
That was really fun. My girlfriend and I spent a couple...
It's, for people who don't know, the Lighthouse Cafe is the cafe where Ryan Gosling...
I was going to explain it.
Go ahead.
I'm just kidding.
I thought you were going past that. So that's okay. Go ahead. Sorry.
I'm setting up the story. I'm laying out the setting and contextualizing it.
My bad. Please
No,
go
it's
ahead.
okay. Now you made it weird. You know what I mean? Now it's all built up.
I know.
I'm so, fuck. Just kidding. No, so my girlfriend and I spent a couple days at Hermosa Beach because, we just needed some time away because we were going through some shit. And I was looking up places we can go in the area, restaurants we can try. And we still wanted to walk around and kind of improvise, but you still want to plan ahead because sometimes an area will kind of disappoint you when you walk around. And so I found online, though, the Lighthouse Cafe, which is, they shot a scene from La La Land there with John Legend and Ryan Gosling.
Yeah. No, but I thought it was this. No, it's a scene where he explains jazz to him.
No, it's where him and John Legend and I think Emma Stone is in that scene too. It was later in the movie.
Oh,
it was after he switched the. Yeah,
I thought it was the famous scene where he's talking about how he's going to save jazz.
No, it wasn't that scene.
Okay.
Hi, I just want to drop in and say Chris was wrong. Both scenes were shot there.
But yeah, so we went there and we watched a jazz band play for a night, and I had an old fashioned. I felt very classy there.
You sent me pictures of it. Maybe we can share.
Yeah,
it.
we'll pop up some pictures.
And the vibes just looked amazing.
It was a cool place, man. Like if anyone finds themselves at Hermosa Beach, I highly recommend going there.
Number 4. Okay, so I just want to make it clear. Now I've stopped being silly personally. 4 to 1 are just movies.
So we're not messing around anymore.
I'm not.
Yeah.
You're still welcome to. But for me, I wanted my top 4 movies of this year. I wanted to say on this episode.
Okay.
So
yeah.
now these are actually my top 4 movies of the year.
Cool.
Number 4, Hitman.
Okay, cool. Yeah. That came out this year. That's so funny. I didn't even think I processed that.
Came out earlier this year. It's kind of the year of Glenn Powell. I mean, it's been the year of Glenn Powell since Maverick came out.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
This was Twister and Hitman. Hitman is, I don't know, it's just everything I love in movies, which is a rock star, movie star performance at the center of it, made by someone who I respect and love, who makes personal movies that still feel like anyone can relate to it, Richard Linklater.
Can we call Richard Linklater like a stupid nickname, like Linky or something like that?
Our boy Linky.
Our boy Linky.
I love that.
Okay, cool. I just wanted to, just because, I feel like I'm cool with him like that.
No, you're pretty tight with him. Linklater, I feel like, is one of your favorites, right?
Big time. Yeah. He just has such like a calming energy when he makes movies, if that makes any sense.
Well, exactly. And to that point, I remember going into Hitman, I was like, this is going to be something different than he's done. This is like a big genre piece. You sit down, and after the first 5 minutes, I just immediately feel like I'm in a Linklater movie again.
Yeah.
Which is what's so cool about him. In the promotional material, it just looks like he's going to make Glenn Powell's going to wear all these goofy outfits. I'm not going to spoil anything about this movie because this movie has amazing twists and turns, but it becomes very philosophical. It becomes about identity and what your identity is, and can a person change who they want to what they want to be?
Yeah, all the costume stuff is a very small piece of the pie. You know what I mean? And
it still informs the character, but it is just dressing for what the movie really is.
Exactly. Like I'm sure some people who haven't seen it just see it as like, okay, this is a movie where he dresses up a lot. That's at least in my head before I watched it, that's all I got out of the promotional material.
And you understand because that's how you got to sell the movie.
Yeah, exactly. It's good imagery and stuff, but just know if anyone's maybe put off by that sort of thing, just know the movie is not that.
I also am going to show my LA privilege. I got to see this movie in theaters because even though unfortunately this movie was put on Netflix, I do think that is one of the saddest things that's happened. I knew Linklater was probably had to do it because those were the only people that were going to probably buy the movie. But this movie when I saw it at Alamo Drafthouse, the 1 week that it played in theaters, it played like gangbusters in theaters. Like people were laughing, the twists and turns were like getting them. And it was just like people love Glenn Powell. So from the moment he's on screen, you could hear people get excited. And that's like a movie star, someone who just grabs you from the first second.
Yeah, I know. He's probably the next, and what's also nice, this is kind of a side note, that he's not in anything Marvel related so far.
He literally said during the press run for Twisters, he said no to certain scripts like Jurassic World or like big IP scripts. Because
as much as I would love to see him in a Jurassic Park movie,
but he said no, he specifically named Jurassic World. I said no to that respectfully. I mean, I had nothing against the script, but I was kind of wanted to put my attention to more movies that like were personal and interesting to me.
Yeah. So I went with Twisters.
Well, I fucking love that Twisters is the thing that he's attached him to. That's his blockbuster, which feels like an old school 90s blockbuster, which is like, I don't know, man, huge tornadoes. Like, it's just, I love that it's not like, oh, we got to think about the legacy of Jurassic Park. Fuck all that. I want Glenn Powell chasing a Twister.
And woohoo! He just yelling that shit. Yeah, I agree, because like I think him being in Top Gun Maverick as well, his goal, it feels like, is to very much bring back that old school movie star isms. That's what he's trying to do right now.
I've talked a lot about what I think like a solid movie star is throughout the entirety of Nice Dude, our podcast. What do you think makes Glenn Powell a really cool movie star?
I think he has this kind of self-awareness about him. He doesn't really care if he makes himself look good. He just feels like a guy you want to hang out with and get a beer and won't feel intimidated by him. At least as a guy watching it. It's like the whole, women want to be with him, men want to be him kind of thing.
He is kind of the prime example of that.
Exactly. Yeah. And so, like, even in Anyone But You, which, it's not a good movie objectively.
No, but you and I have a lot of weird fondness for it.
I know. I had a lot of fun watching that movie. It's crazy to say.
It's the magic of that movie. It's the reason that movie made $200 million.
I know. And again, it's not a good movie at all. But
and the chemistry is non-existent.
No. And, like, Sydney Sweeney's not funny, too.
Yeah.
But still, there's still like a funness to it. Even at the end, this isn't spoiling the movie, but at the end, there's like a sequence where they're all lip syncing and it cuts around to all the different settings of the movie.
That's like a moment where the movie feels alive.
Exactly. And like it did the There's Something About Mary thing.
Yeah, and it reminded me of that moment. Also reminded me of my best friend's wedding. There's a scene in this restaurant where they all start erupting into song.
It's the whenever, forever, he gives you his heart. Yeah, I've seen that scene.
It's a beautiful scene, and Julia Roberts is there kind of angry.
They parody it on a Date Movie.
Oh, okay. Gross.
I'm just throwing that out there.
Those filmmakers shouldn't receive attention. But anyway,
Jason Friedberg and Aaron Seltzer, you mean? Those guys?
I hate that you know their names.
The directors, well, they're two of like the 5 or 6 writers of the Scary Movie franchise.
Right. It's just hurting my brain that you know their names. Anyways, but yeah, no, Hitman's great. I have nothing else to say about it.
Hell yeah.
I ended up forcing you to watch it on Netflix.
I really liked that one too.
But you loved it.
Yeah. Well, and Glenn Powell was also in the other Linklater movie too. Everybody Wants Some, which I also really like too.
Guys, if you haven't seen Everybody Wants Some, it is the definition of a hangout movie.
It's a good bro hangout movie. Like if you like the energy that you and I give off, which these guys are way more masculine than you and I are, but
cooler.
Everything else. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying like we're like that, but like the energy that I think people like about us is like we're just a couple guys hanging out and people like to hang out with us. And if you like that, watch Everybody Wants Some.
That movie is a real party. And if you like Glenn Powell is amazing in that movie.
Yeah.
All right, so what's your number 4?
My number 4 is watching Daddy's Home with You.
Oh my god!
Because I think,
yes.
So I'll explain, because
you tell the story.
I'll keep it vague to not reveal anything personal. But you in particular were going through a pretty rough time because of outside people, outside forces.
Yeah,
people we didn't like were not being good people. And there's a lot of stress and a lot of anger and a lot of just it was a rough couple weeks.
There was this bitch Yolanda, and she wasn't being cool.
Wait, was that from something?
Yolanda, be cool.
Oh yeah, say bitch, be cool. Okay, got it. Yeah, I know, right? I
was kind of proud of that.
Yeah. I know the one Pulp Fiction reference I didn't get. Anyway, though, so we were dealing with that. And I'm not gonna say you were dealing with that, and I was trying to be supportive for you.
We were gonna shoot. And there was just so much mental strain going on that we decided not to.
Yeah. And basically, you wanted to watch Challengers, which I will get to that movie. You've been pressing me hard to watch Challengers. And I know listeners are probably like, what? I haven't seen it yet. Okay, I'm sorry. With that being said, I knew you were stressed. And I was like, why don't we watch like a stupid movie to kind of just laugh a little bit and kind of not think and look at something critically? Because again, it's weird to say, but it's different when you and I cover movies as like a pseudo job.
Yeah, I think people understand the fact that you sometimes just want to shut your brain off.
Yeah, we just covered that earlier in this very podcast. So with that being said, we watched Daddy's Home.
Yeah.
And you laughed really fucking hard. Your mood was just like...
It was a perfect like right place, right time thing.
Exactly.
I just needed a movie like that, and it fucking got me. as supporting characters played by Bobby Cannavale and Hannibal Buress like are just so funny. Mark Wahlberg and Will Ferrell are funny, but Bobby Cannavale and Hannibal Buress took the movie away for some minutes there. Linda Cardellini, I just fell in love with her for like, I don't know, she's always been hot, beautiful, whatever you want to say. For some reason in this movie, I was like, God damn, she still looks good.
I know, and it's so funny because her character is such a nothing character in this movie.
And it was one of those like superficial things where I'm like, I don't care, man. Put her in more scenes.
Yeah, exactly. So I put that because I do actually have like a genuinely good memory around that because it was like nice to see you laugh and shit.
Yeah, no, that was a fun moment too. That was fun. Okay, moving on to my number 3. Some would say the movie event of the year. I mean, Wicked probably took that title now, but Dune 2.
Yeah.
That's
my number 3 as well. So we can just kind of knock it out together. Yeah, Dune Part 2.
That's amazing. Just one of those things. I know people say this a lot about Dune 2, but sat down in the theater and the moment, it was specifically the moment where, and I remember Amanda from the Big Picture said the exact same thing. I just want it to be known. Big Picture's a big podcast. I'm not copying them. I had the same feeling too. The moment the Harkonnens float in the air in the first like 5 minutes of the movie with that Arrakis background and they're just silently floating to find the Fremen. I was like, oh yeah, I've never seen that before.
Yeah, dude.
And Dune 2 has like 10 more moments like that with a stacked cast of what we were talking about with Hitman, genuinely exciting new movie stars, Zendaya, Timothy Chalamet, Austin Butler, and then you get this old guard with Josh Brolin, Javier Bardem, and then you get like the Skarsgård, you get Christopher Walken. And then it's like, it feels like a true David Lean style Lawrence of Arabia epic.
Yeah, dude. That movie was like nothing I've ever seen.
The fact that it ends on a downer too, for a big blockbuster.
Without spoiling anything, we'll be careful.
For a big blockbuster in 2024 to end on a fucking downer is amazing.
Yeah.
And surprising. I don't know. It was just like.
Yeah, I mean, because you and I didn't see it together. We saw this one separately as well. I saw it with my girlfriend and we went to the AMC like Dolby theater. It's like the one like a notch below IMAX because my girlfriend gets motion sickness at IMAX. So we always
I saw
try
it
to
in
go
IMAX, but Dolby is the kind of the second best thing.
Exactly. So, dude, the thump, whatever you want to call it. I can't even find the words to describe what that movie did. And if you saw it in theaters, you fucking get it. I mean, don't get me wrong. I highly recommend it for anyone if you haven't even seen it in theaters. But like in theaters, it's a whole other beast.
It's kind of just like it's the Nicole Kidman ad. Like we could just go into that because it is like the reason why movie theaters exist is that movie.
Yeah.
Like it seeps into you immediately and it uses every form of the craft.
Yeah.
With music, sound design, cinematography, performance. It's all there. And there's also a part of it where I'm like, I didn't know Timothy Chalamet had this kind of performance in him.
Yeah, and the same year, or not same year, but within like short couple months within each other, he was just Willy Wonka.
Yeah, and I'm like, and I used to say it before, but now I can say it confidently. He is like our next Leonardo DiCaprio.
Sure.
Where it's like, this is like a movie star that girls are into and he's like the internet's boyfriend kind of thing, but then he's also like can turn out a banger performance and loves movies and you can tell in his taste, has eclectic taste, wants to work with the best filmmakers.
Well, I also love that he's a gamer through and through.
Oh, well, yeah.
Like because he's the only celebrity like that's mainstream like that to that level that gives actually interesting answers when they ask him video game related questions.
There's also like endearing YouTube videos when he was a kid, like where he's like reviewing controllers.
Well, he like sold controllers. He made custom controllers.
That's right.
And sold them.
That's right.
Yeah. So yeah, he's a gamer through and through, and still is. You can tell because I remember I saw some compilation of like celebrities talking about their favorite games, and they were like, NBA Jam and Pac-Man and really kind of pretty basic selections. And then he's like LA Noire. Like I was like, yes, which LA Noire is not an indie game, but it's a much more interesting answer to give.
So Dune 2, fucking amazing. The sandworm scene.
How
the fuck did they do that?
Exactly. And the fact that you and I are talking in 2024, having that feeling of how did they do that is pretty fucking wild, because we've seen a lot of shit in movies nowadays.
I genuinely couldn't believe it when I saw it.
Yeah.
I don't know. Love it.
Cool. So you and I shared number 3. Do you mind if I drop my number 2?
right here, dog.
Right here, dude. All right, I'm gonna drop my number 2 all over this podcast.
All right, number 2, poop. All right,
We're getting a little loopy.
What's your number 2?
Number 2 is Fallout.
Okay, let's talk
That's my
about
number
it.
2.
That was my number 6, but
Yeah.
I want
So-
you to go first.
Yeah, well, I mean, I've been pretty vocal about this. I don't know if I've been vocal about it on mic, but I'm a huge Fallout fan. I have a Nuka-Cola tattoo on my arm, and I was very excited for this show. I was nervous about it, but I was very excited. And
Everything we heard from it was promising. The fact that Jonathan Nolan was at the head of it, who had done Westworld, so you knew he had an eye for scope. Walton Goggins, like the cast, everything was exciting.
yeah, for sure. And it was just, I think Last of Us, gave me a lot of hope for what video game adaptations could do.
For television.
Exactly. Well, I was always a big proponent of putting video games on television. Even before they got, really popular, like for years, I've been saying that they should put video games on television.
It just works better.
It works better because you can actually get more attached to the characters, because I think video games are very character based. Point is, when the trailer for Fallout came out, I was very excited, but very nervous, because I feel like it's a hard universe to pull off on screen, because there's so many weird isms, a lot of little nuances and a weird sense of humor. It gets dark at times, and it's also really goofy at times. And so, point is, though, seeing it come to life like that and fully embrace the weirdness of the Fallout world was really cool. I was really pumped. Like, it really gave me a lot of hope.
Yeah, like honestly, one of my favorite TV shows this year. So we don't talk a lot about TV, so I'm glad we mentioned that.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So I'll say my number 2, which is Challengers.
Okay, yeah, makes sense.
I mean, for a while, this was, from the moment it came out, my number 1 movie of the year. Like, it held that spot until a certain movie came out, which I'll reveal next. But there have been moments in my life where I walk out of a movie and I'm vibrating. I've said this to you before. Top Gun Maverick was definitely one of those. And the Challengers was that. I saw it at Alamo Drafthouse at 11 a.m. So it must be part of also the fact that I was heavily caffeinated. I ordered a coffee at Alamo, and they give you like a fucking mug that you're pouring into, so you get a lot of
Wait, really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's pretty cool. What? I didn't know that.
I thought I told you that.
Maybe you did, but I forgot.
No, yeah.
So now this is new information.
It's pretty great. So I had like an avocado toast and a lot of fucking coffee, and watched Challengers. With Challengers, have you seen it? It at points feels like an adrenaline shot in your arm. So both those things got me going.
I just wanted to say real quick that that's a very LA setting you just created. I was at Alamo Drafthouse drinking a lot of coffee, having my avocado toast, watching Challengers.
I'm in the bubble, man.
Yeah, you're there,
And I walked out fucking just like, it's the best feeling I can have when I walk out of a movie, which is like, I need to tell everyone about this. I need to talk to my friends who've seen it, yell at my friends who haven't seen it. Like that movie just brought out this thing in me, and it has one of the best endings of the year, one of the best movie endings I've seen in a while. It has performances I love. It made me love Zendaya even more than I already did. The fact that she did Dune 2 and this in the same year.
Yeah, that's a badass year.
Both with different performances, but with amazing performances. You haven't seen Challenger, so I can't really say much about it with you.
Yeah.
Because I do want you to watch it. I lended you the Blu-ray a week ago, so I do hope you check it out eventually.
Get to it, yeah.
It's just a movie experience that I'll cherish forever. It was just fucking electric.
It's so crazy because it's not like I thought it looked bad when the trailer came out, but I remember when the trailer, I was like, oh, it looks interesting, cool. Like I was kind of milquetoast about it when I first saw it. And then as soon as people started seeing it, everyone is exploding. You too, but like the internet in general was like, you gotta watch Challengers. I've never seen anything like it. And I was like, I did not expect that at all.
You know what it is? It's not a movie that's just like changed the form forever. Cinema's not the change. It's not that. To settle expectations. At the end of the day, I understand if some people are like, yeah, it's fine. What are you guys going crazy about? The reason that it gets that reaction out of people, and the reason why it's so high up on my list, is because the movie tackles a feeling really well. And that's
vibes movies.
Yeah, it's not a vibes movie, but it just tackles a certain feeling, the feeling of like what competition is, and how competition, sex, and tennis all intersect.
In case we were all curious of what happens when you intersect those,
That's what the movie is.
Yeah.
And I mean, a lot of Luca's movies are about like different personalities clashing and how sex plays a role in and how humans interact with each other, all that stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, it's just amazing. It's so exciting seeing a movie like this.
Oh, that's sick.
What's your number 2?
I already said my number 2. It was Fallout.
So we can move on to number 1. What's your number 1?
I was going to get to honorable mentions before we jump straight to the number 1.
Okay, then I'll do honorable mentions after you as well.
I only put a couple weird ones in here, but I put Doki Doki Literature Club.
Yes.
You know, and again, this is an old game, but I just played it for the first time, which I hadn't before, and yeah, it was just fucking badass. You know, I don't for those who don't know, it's a game, it's a horror game.
I would just say to look it up.
Yeah, look it up.
It's hard to explain.
It is hard to explain. So, you know, yeah, go down the rabbit hole all you want if you don't know what it is.
You want to say it one more time if people didn't catch it?
Yeah, Doki Doki Literature Club.
Cool.
And if you look it up, you'll see it looks like a weird girly dating sim, but it is so much more than that. So please do yourself a favor, go down that rabbit hole. My other honorable mention is growing my hair out.
Hell yeah.
Not to psych myself out, but I'm pretty happy with.
Yeah, I feel like you really landed on a great look.
Thanks, man.
I've said
I
it to you many
appreciate
times, like even off mic, but I'm like, you found your look.
Yeah, well, I mean, I've been itching for one for a while. You know, I didn't really talk about this because we were doing movie reactions and I never had a space to talk about it. But like, I was kind of bored of my appearance for a while. Mm-hmm. You know, I always had short hair and a little goatee.
And you always felt, there was always this feeling where, at least you expressed this to me, you just never knew what to do with your hair.
Yeah. And so the point is, though, it's just nice that I'm like, oh, I found a new look. And maybe I'll look back and maybe I'll do something different later, or maybe I won't like it looking. But like right now, I'm pretty happy.
I have a few, so I'm just going to run through them.
Yeah.
Not Like Us, and then Kendrick's entire GNX album.
Oh, sure, yeah.
It was just such a fucking solid banger of a year for Kendrick Lamar, and for us consuming that stuff.
Yeah.
Dana Carvey's Joe Biden impression.
Yeah. Dude, him just wandering around set.
Him like blinking his eyes and be like, I don't know what's going. It's amazing. It like made the election year slightly more bearable. Beekeeper, Carry On, and Conclave making for perfect plane movies. It's just like the perfect B movie. Shut your brain off and watch something that's just thrilling and entertaining.
Yeah.
Bill Burr roasting Bill Maher on Club Random.
Oh, dude, that was so good.
Wasn't it so cathartic?
Yeah.
And then last thing is Brat Summer, brought to you by Charlie XCX.
Okay, hell yeah.
What a great meme. What a great banger of an album.
Yeah.
It was just like what we needed this year. It was a great summer because of it. So those are my honorable mentions.
Okay, cool.
What's your number 1?
My number 1 is something that didn't come out this year, but it's something that did change things for me, and it was playing Baldur's Gate 3 for the first time. Because you and I both know how much we talked about it, and I think it's more than just the game that I really loved about it, but it was like the enthusiasm and passion behind the making of the game, and the respect that it had for the players, and the community support behind it, and what it philosophically stands for. There's so much to it that just like was just candy to me, if that makes any sense. Like it was a game that I didn't realize needed to exist as much as I thought.
We talked over the phone. I haven't played the game, but I've consumed a lot of like the interviews from the creators and like heard a lot of glowing reviews from people.
Yeah.
What I really appreciate about it, and I know you do too, is that the game and the people making it not only love what they're making, but respect the players.
Yeah.
And I'm a huge proponent of like whatever art you're making it for people. So respect the people you're making it for.
Yeah.
And make it with a level of like, don't treat them like they're dumb. Don't treat them like they're just hungry consumers. Treat them like people who appreciate good art.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And Baldur's Gate does that in flying colors. You know, for non-gamers, you know, you might not fully understand it, you know, fair enough, you know, but like dude, that game is fucking nuts.
I mean, it's just fucking cool to have something that so many people are really excited about. That's always nice. Like, monoculture basically doesn't exist nowadays. We're not all watching the same TV show. We're not all watching even the same movies. And we're not all playing the same video games. And it's exciting when a game like that comes out, even though I'm not a gamer, that everyone is just like, this rocks.
Yeah.
This is good, and this is good for the culture. And
I know the only criticism I've ever heard of Baldur's Gate is that it sets unrealistic expectations for other games. Like, I think other mainstream studios have come out and said that, like, Baldur's Gate made their lives harder to make games because everyone expects it to be like that.
But that's what I want with all art.
Yeah.
We need to have higher standards for what we watch or what we play or what we listen to. And the best part about people who make stuff like Baldur's Gate 3 or something like Dune 2 is that now our standards are higher. I want to expect some better stuff.
Well, that the thing is too, for me at least, like higher standards doesn't always mean the product has to be like, this upper expensive blockbuster video game that can do anything. I think what really, for me, like I said, for me, is the love and respect put into it. That's the core of it. Like, even if a game comes out and it doesn't always work or isn't perfect and you pick it apart, if you can feel that the people making it gave a shit to that level and wanted to make a game, genuinely good for players, like, gamers are way more forgiving when that happens. I mean, I remember that happened with No Man's Sky. Do you know that game?
Yeah.
And I won't get down. There's a whole lore rabbit hole you can go down in that game. But that's a game that came out broken when it first came out. It did not work. Everyone was criticizing it hard. The developers put their heads down, worked on it over the course of years, and now it has a very healthy and thriving community, and it did not charge anyone for it. They didn't complain. They didn't blame anyone. They didn't do anything. They just put their heads down and fixed the game.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, that's cool.
yeah, exactly. So that's my number one.
My number one is Anora.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I was thinking it was either going to be Anora or Wicked.
No.
Those are my two.
I liked Wicked. Wicked's not that.
But we
one.
got all the way up to number 2, and I realized Wicked hadn't shown up yet, and I was expecting it to be in here somewhere.
I like Wicked. I also have problems with Wicked.
Okay, fair enough.
Anora was such a wonderful experience in the same way Challengers was, where I walked out fucking excited and thrilled and vibrating, and I wasn't on caffeine, so it was real. But it was like I saw it at a packed AMC screening, which also was wild because I was like, this is a Sean Baker movie. He's like an independent filmmaker hero.
Yeah.
He's the guy that, like, I made movies that got into Sundance that were shot on an iPhone. He's that guy who became known as that guy. And now everyone's excited for a Sean Baker movie. That's really exciting. But it's still, what's cool about it is that even if it feels slightly more mainstream and it's funnier than a lot more Sean Baker movies, it still has all the themes that he's interested in, whether it be sex work, what is it like being on the edges of this, like, social and economic class in America. Like, what's it really like to constantly struggle in being poor, and what would you do if you finally have access to something? Like, you really don't want to lose it again. And at the center of it has a performance from Mikey Madison that is like a star-making performance, honestly. Like, I'll see her for the rest of my life in movies because of this movie.
Yeah.
We already loved her from Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
Getting her face eaten by a pit bull.
And losing her fucking shit.
Yeah, getting set on fire.
Yeah, and she was also in the Scream movies, I know. And so it's just exciting to see her lead this movie. And it's exciting for being in that theater and just going on this roller coaster ride of a movie. I mean, you don't expect the turns that this movie takes.
Sure.
And also Sean Baker, he won the Palme d'Or in Cannes. Amazing. It's like the first American to win a Palme d'Or in a while.
I actually didn't know that he was the first American. That's crazy.
He's not the first American to win. It's been a while since the...
Got it.
Yeah,
Okay.
To be clear. And, but the fact that this is a guy that is been on, like, the cusp of independent filmmaker for so long, but has so much to say, and now finally got, like, his big moment where everyone saw his movie. I mean, Anora's like a hit, like, and people are talking about it, people want to see it, but you still watch the movie and you're like, oh, you stole shots here. I can see that there's actual people in the background that are looking at you, and I can see that you didn't have rights and permits to shoot in Vegas this way.
I love that shit, though. I haven't seen the movie and I really want to, but I do love when you can feel like real human hands on a movie,
which is Sean Baker in general, like that. It's handmade movies. I've seen Florida Project, Red Rocket, and now this. I want to go back and watch Tangerine, was his Sundance breakout that was all filmed on an iPhone. I'm excited to see what he does next.
Okay, cool.
Okay, so that was our top 10 list. Let's just read them out really quickly. Number 10 for me was Rebel Ridge. 9 was hosting my first dinner party. 8 was playing tennis regularly. 7 was The Substance. 6 was Fallout TV show. 5 was the SNL Beppo digital short. 4 was Hitman 3, Dune 2, 2 Challengers, 1 Anora.
All right, cool. Yeah, I heard it. No, I'm kidding. What if I just react to it, like, just weirdly?
It's like, all right, moving on. Okay.
My number 10 was the Nevada City Film Festival. Number 9 was Terrifier 3. Number 8 was watching Modern Family. Number 7 is showing my girlfriend the Star Wars movies. Number 6 was The Merry Gentleman and crappy Christmas rom-coms. Number 5 was the Lighthouse Cafe at Hermosa Beach. Number 4 was watching Daddy's Home with You. Number 3 was Dune Part 2. Number 2 was the Fallout TV show. Honorable mentions were Growing My Hair Out and Doki Doki. And number 1, Baldur's Gate 3.
So, at the end of normal episode of our podcast, we take it to our fans to tell us how blank movie changed them. This time, we just gave them a simple Q&A style prompt. And we're just open up the mailbag, Chris, unzipping and opening it up, seeing what's inside. You know?
Yeah, what's in this? It's not a bomb. What is this?
It's a mailbag. Okay.
Thank you. Our chemistry is electric.
So good. We were obviously not tired. Monica from Kansas asks, for both of you, you're putting together an epic holiday celebration. You need to find a venue and fill a few spots to make the celebration people will remember for years to come. Please select an iconic movie setting where your party will take place, along with few movie characters to serve in the following roles. I'll start.
Okay.
We wrote this down separately.
So what setting? We're starting off. What setting?
My movie setting is going to be, we're each going to have a different one, right? I'm assuming?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So my movie setting is the Hard Deck Bar in Top Gun Maverick.
Okay.
One of the best movie bars. Host is, so I didn't mention movie characters. I did movie actors and like personalities more.
Okay.
So the host is Martin Short.
Okay.
Life of the party is Glenn Powell. Caterer is Popeyes.
No, just overall Popeyes is the restaurant.
Yeah, I mean,
Okay,
if they
cool.
cater, like no one would complain. DJ is DJ Diesel. That's Shaq's DJ name. He DJs sometimes.
Oh wait, that's for real?
Shaquille O'Neal's DJ name is DJ Diesel. Yeah.
I did not know that. That's awesome.
The wallflower is just this one I did for you. The wallflower is Ethan Hawke.
He's a thoughtful artist.
Yeah,
kind of writing a little notebook on the side.
Well, I'm thinking like he brought a book.
Okay, yeah.
He brought a book to a party, but then when you talk to him, he's kind of cool, you know?
Okay, fair enough.
Guest sharing vacation photos is Adam Sandler. Yeah, no, my kids are getting older, you know, so they don't like me.
Okay, hell yeah. All right, right on.
Okay, your turn.
So my setting is Austin Powers' Shag Pad from in the 60s.
Beautiful.
Specifically, and it's also hosted by Austin Powers too. I put those two together, you know. I was like, okay.
God, he would throw such a fun party.
Yeah, of course he would. You'd have an amazing time,
Yeah.
right? Life of the party, I put Gandalf the Grey with his fireworks and Cheap Tricks.
Fuck yeah.
I wrote Cheap Tricks. Caterer, I wrote Jon Favreau.
From Chef.
just Jon Favreau. Yeah, it could be Chef Jon Favreau. However you interpret Jon Favreau making you food, you know.
It works.
DJ, I put Ron Burgundy with his flute.
Oh my God, Chris. Yes. Okay.
Wallflower, Anakin Skywalker from episode 3.
Perfect.
And then guest sharing vacation photos, I put Forrest Gump.
Bravo. Oh my God, Forrest. Imagine his vacation photo.
He's just so, I went here
to Kilimanjaro.
Yeah, exactly. Rain came in sideways here.
Okay, perfect. I want to go through these a little bit fast just because we're already running.
We're pushing the time a little bit.
Daniel, fifth, he said also in the way he signed off, hopefully fifth appearance. Daniel is our most loyal write-in.
Yeah, thank you.
Hey, nice dudes, once again, I only have 3 random questions. So let's answer them as we go, okay?
Yeah.
So first question he asks, what are some movies that you are planning to cover for the show? I put that, like, you and I discussed off mic that we should kind of make an official movies that changed us vault, where we have like these big movies that are really important to us that eventually we want to sprinkle throughout our time doing this podcast. Social Network, Jurassic Park, Back to the Future, etc. These like big seismic movies, you know?
Yeah. These movies that are really important to us that we don't want to waste, that we want to kind of treat like an event.
What are some that you wrote down?
I honestly didn't really write them down. I'm kind of on the same page. Like the big obvious ones, like I'd love to go through the whole Star Wars series down the road. RoboCop is a really big one for me too.
Yeah.
I think as well, when we mentioned Linklater, I do want to cover like School of Rock and the Before trilogy.
Yeah, I know, dude. I want to cover the Before trilogy so badly. Also, I think how funny would it be if I just made you and your girlfriend do the Before trilogy?
Yeah,
podcast?
You weren't even in the episodes, just straight up.
And you guys like go through the trajectory of those movies. Like by the third one, you hate each other.
Yeah, exactly. We start fighting on the show.
And the ending, you find some peace, but you don't know if it's going to resolve.
Yeah, which is, that's universal. That's what relationships are, man.
Linklater would be a lot of fun, though.
Yeah.
Because his movies do mean a lot to us. Is there a chance you guys will ever do the reactions again? I think you guys you and me are on the same page on this. I basically wrote down maybe, but not regularly ever again.
Probably, yeah. I think like
I don't think we're going to get to a point where we're going to be like, well, now, yeah, every other week a reaction again.
yeah, it's not where we want to put our effort and energy anymore, and that's not a direction we want to take our YouTube careers anymore.
No.
And I love what we did. I'm not ashamed of it. I'm really proud of it, and I wrestled with that for a while when I was kind of first in the throes of how stressed I was, but yeah, I down the road, if we ever had the time to do one just for fun, I wouldn't like never say never kind of thing, but it would be a while. It's not a priority for us.
This podcast is kind of our baby now, so this is like what our main focus is. But yeah, so all right, favorite video game from both. Surprisingly, I wrote down two.
Okay. Yeah, what's yours? I want to hear yours first.
So one is very like from a very sentimental place, but it's still a badass game that I know you love too, is Modern Warfare 2. Modern Warfare 2 was a big game for me because it was just like, that's how I spent a lot of summers with my friends back when I was in like early high school. It's just, I just remember like summer break or winter break just getting on multiplayer and playing Modern Warfare 2 with my friends. Like I didn't even play the campaign for Modern Warfare 2 is amazing.
Yeah.
But the fucking getting on multiplayer with a bunch of my friends was just like a memory I have. And then the Insomniac Spider-Man game, the first one.
Oh yeah, dude, that game's so good.
I've played the Miles Morales game. I haven't gotten a chance to play the second one, but the first one is like might be one of my favorite Spider-Man movies. Like
yeah, well, I know there are video essays about that, like how that game is like a perfect Spider-Man movie.
Yeah. Shout out to High Top Films.
Yeah, I had just to go off of what you said about Modern Warfare 2 though. I had that kind of special connection with Black Ops. That was a big one for me.
Yeah,
like me and my friends
actually,
would hop on, and we would create one-on-one matches with each other and fuck around. So
what are yours?
I got to rattle off a couple. I still haven't selected like a singular favorite game of all time, but Fallout New Vegas is definitely one that comes to mind. You know that I'm so fond of that. The Last of Us is a big one for me too. And I mean, honestly, probably Baldur's Gate 3. I love
Last of Us is definitely up there for me too.
Yeah, Last of Us is just fucking. It's one of those games like I'm playing it again right now. I've beaten it, I don't know, a cajillion amount of times, probably like at least 7 or something like that.
Yeah.
And now I'm just kind of playing it again, going through the motions. It's kind of funny.
Yeah.
But another one that I love that my girlfriend showed me was Super Mario Brothers 3. This is old school. That game's so much fun. That game is still really fun to play now, and it's still so pretty to look at.
They're such well-designed games.
Yeah, like the sound effects are so perfectly satisfying. I don't know how to describe it, but yeah, those are like a couple of my favorites. Red Dead Redemption as well. Damn, I don't know. Grand Theft Auto 4. Grand Theft Auto 4 in particular. 4,
you love 4 so much ever since I've known you.
Yeah.
Like you talk about
I had an
a lot.
unhealthy obsession with that game.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So favorite fake movie band? From Robert S.
Oh yeah.
So great question. He mentioned like Spinal Tap and stuff like that. So
yeah.
He also mentioned School of Rock, which I have to say for me, School of Rock is definitely in there, but it's a tie, honestly, between School of Rock and this is kind of going to be a pseudo recommendation for people who haven't seen it, but the band from Sing Street, the movie.
Okay.
Have you heard of that movie?
Yeah. I know the movie. I haven't seen it, but I know.
So it came out in 2016. It still feels like it's underseen. It's on Netflix, I think now. Recently, it got on Netflix, and it's an amazing coming of age movie about a kid. It's set in the 80s about a kid who's really into a girl, and to impress her, he starts a band. And the music is genuinely really good, but it's also a lot about like the classic coming of your age story of like chasing your dreams, learning a little bit more about yourself,
Yeah.
And it's so sincere, and it's made with so much love, and it's also a lot about making art and what that means when you're a kid versus what that turns into when you're an adult. And the songs in it are really solid and are catchy.
Okay.
Which you talk to me about a lot about how hard a catchy song is to make. And the movie did it. So it's on Netflix.
Okay,
Go see it.
Cool.
Saying that to you and also our listeners.
Yeah. Okay, right on.
So what are yours?
So This one's from That's So Raven. They're called The Boys in Motion.
Chris, oh, I love you. I thought you were going to mention School of Rock.
Well, School of Rock is, of course, like I was going to go for that one too. That's in there. I put a couple.
Talk about That's So Raven.
They're just a parody of Backstreet Boys, and there's one singular song in an episode that just goes like, "Boys, we're the boys in motion. We give you our devotion." If you saw the episode, you know what I'm talking about.
Right when you started singing it, I'm watching the episode in my head now.
Yeah, exactly. Because like at the end of the episode, all the main characters have to disguise themselves because the boys couldn't make it to the show, so they put wigs and like cover their faces with the hat and shit. It's so good. But another one, this is all just a honorable mention, a shout out too, is Corey and the Boys from That's So Raven, because Corey, the little brother, has his own band, and there's a song that they play throughout.
God, I
that's
love
like,
you. Yeah.
I forgot exactly the words, but it's like, nothing feels better than feeling the love. And they get like a singer, and she can't sing at all, but Corey's really attracted to her. So it shows his perspective that she sings really beautifully and well.
It's like Shallow Hal.
Yeah, exactly. He's blinded by the fact, but everyone else is like, dude, she sounds horrible. Like, why are you? And he's like, no, we got to hire her. So that, and then also Wild Stallions from Bill and Ted.
Look at you fucking go. I forgot about Bill and Ted. Wow, man, you really killed it with that question.
Thanks, man.
All right, I don't know how to pronounce this, but Corey Joe Chim, 6029.
It's a username on YouTube, yeah.
You both talk about growing up in immigrant households and not always having the same exposure to film as someone who had a more quote-unquote American childhood. I'll say that that's mostly me.
It's like, yeah, exactly, 90% you.
Yeah. Are there any movies that you've been called out for not seeing still as adults who now have wholly embraced American cinema? So I'll just say this. The Nice Dude movie reaction channel was basically that. It was a lot of movies that I've always been yelled at to watch. The Naked Gun movies, Gremlins, Spaceballs, that a lot of people who grew up with American movies that their parents showed them, I didn't grow up with. And that reaction channel was that.
Yeah. I think, for me, I didn't really have like you said, 90% of that question's geared towards you. I didn't really have a direct, like, immigrant parent life the same way a lot of other people do. I have multiple cultures and races in my blood, but it didn't really like affect my upbringing when it comes to the movies that I watched. I would say I missed out on a lot of those movies you mentioned because of generational differences, not as much for cultural differences.
Yeah.
Just because those movies are older and, my grandpa loves, Caddyshack and these kind of old school comedies.
Yeah.
And so with that being said, the reaction channel was that for me too. We got you and I both know we got a lot of accusations of us faking our shit because how could you not have seen this movie?
Like yesterday, I saw on the Nice Dude channel, someone commented on our Holy Grail reaction was like, okay, so they've definitely seen it. And I'm like, that's so funny.
I know. I'm like, I don't have the energy to prove to you. And then we also get criticism saying that we didn't pay enough attention. We were talking too much. But then it's like, way too much about it. It's just whatever. You can't please everyone.
But yeah, so that reaction channel was kind of the answer to that question, I feel like.
Sure.
Last is from our Patreon, Conroe, however you pronounce it.
I kind of like Conroe. Can row your boat, head ass. Yeah. What are you gonna do about that?
Damn, that was so like smooth. Wow, it's cool, Chris. Hey dudes, love the show. My question is not of movies, but about your production workflow, being a fellow AV nerd. No worries if this is proprietary information. Ha ha. Well, it is proprietary information. No, I'm just kidding. I mean, I wrote down like a small like 3 bullet points, and you please add to this if I missed anything.
Yeah.
We shoot and record once a week. We have 2 cameras, and Chris edits half of the podcast.
I'll add in one more thing.
Okay, go ahead.
We record on 2 mics using a mixer.
Exactly. And Chris edits the first half of the podcast, sends it to me. I edit the second half, and I add the movie B-roll that you see.
And while you do that, I work on the thumbnail usually.
You work on thumbnails. We work on titles together, but then you also do descriptions, and then you put all the community engagement stuff. So when you guys see community posts, when you guys see the Patreon posts, that's all Chris. And then with another level of editing that I do, because I am the primary editor.
Yeah, you do like the bells and whistles, like the B-roll and the little zoom-ins and stuff. When you say like I edit the first half, it's really just cutting back and forth between the 2 cameras.
Right. Another level of editing that I do is I cut together the shorts that you see. So like on Instagram and TikTok and YouTube, the Reel Shorts, TikToks. I edit those together. And then yeah, the commentary tracks we record on these mics, this desk, but I basically come and sit next to Chris.
Oh, like as soon as we're done recording a podcast, we'll usually take a little food break, and then we'll just use this very desk and set up a computer in front of us and just record.
And if you see my iMac right there, that's basically on standby. I'm going to move it over behind me. I'm going to go to where Chris is setting, and we're going to watch Christmas Vacation.
Yeah.
Because that's our commentary track for Christmas. Did I miss anything?
No, I don't think so. You know, we keep our process pretty simple nowadays. You know, we have the advantage of 2 people going. So yeah, usually like you make the shorts while I'm editing that first half that we talked about. You know, we try to make sure both of us are kind of equally occupied and pitching in.
And the reason we've been able to keep this operation cheap and functional for so many years is because you and I are really the only ones that work on this.
We've always been, yeah.
When we were doing the reaction channel, we had some help from an assistant editor.
Yeah.
We had 2 assistant editors that would help us out a lot. Very grateful for them. Their names are Jonathan and Jordan.
Yeah.
But besides with this podcast, it's all us. And it's been great. I mean, it's always nice to have a creative collaborator that you meld with, you know? Okay. So that's the end of this end of the year episode. Also the last video of the year.
Yeah.
Thank you guys so much for a fantastic year. It was a roller coaster of the year for us, definitely, but for everyone this year. 2024 was wild, like every year is, but this one specifically. Thank you for your support after we ended the reaction channel. And for those of you who did transfer over to this podcast and wanted to hear and listen to more of us, we really appreciate you.
Yeah. Anyone that spends like, it's hard for me to process that people would spend an hour listening to us shoot the shit, you know, because podcasts are a very different ask. Because reaction channels, you can just click on and it's immediately highly edited and we're just goofing off. It's like visual, whatever. To me, I'm like, I feel like it's just objectively more immediately entertaining.
The joke I make is that like, oh, you have to like really like us to listen to this show.
Exactly. And so anyone that takes the time out of their day to listen to us when there's so much competition out there, you know, with Netflix, so you could be listening to or watching anything. And if you spent your time listening to us, thank you. It really does mean a lot to us. We do see you and we acknowledge that. Thank you.
I hope you guys are having a great holiday season. And last but not least, stay nice, dudes.